Today's episode took place on a hot summer's day. Rocky from the Particle team and I popped over to Kings Park to interview Ryan Tangney about fire ecology. Sounds pretty straightforward, but unfortunately it was a little too straightforward. As in, we needed to head straight up a huge hill. We battled the hot sun and walked the 2Ks with all the podcast gear, which sounds easy, but it really wasn't. At the end of the walk, we found a beautiful oasis of shade and city views to have a chat to Ryan and hear more about his research. What signs are there in Australian plants that they are adapted to fire? How do we know? What clues have they given us?
Well, there's a lot of clues, actually. So thick bark in some of the trees that we have is indicative of, I guess, of the ability to survive through fire. Seeds stored in woody fruit on the cones, like Banksias. That's really indicative of a fire, I guess, a fire cue. I need to be clear that there's a bit of contention about if plants have adapted as a response to fire, or they're adapted with fire, or they're adapted under a fire regime. I don't really know.
Yeah.
But there is clear patterns that plants have traits that allow them to respond to a fire. So yeah, woody fruit on Banksias, for example. Another really good one is some species have hard seeds that need high temperatures to release, I guess, their dormancy, and then they'll germinate straight after a fire with the coming rains. And those seeds that are hard seeded, as we call them, do require temperatures in excess of 100 degrees.
Wow.
So it may be from fire, or there's other mechanisms that can release that, but most commonly and most likely it's from fire.
Because it can't photosynthesize, how does a seed actually make the plant grow?
Well, so inside the seed is some energy reserves itself. So carbohydrates and oils and fats and a whole bunch of good stuff. Everything that needs to produce a root and get the leaves, cotyledons moving. So inside the seed is two cotyledons wrapped up, or if it's a dicot, if it's a monocot, it has one cotyledon. So they will, when the seed is in a certain position to germinate, when it has received its germination requirements, the basics is that seeds need a combination of water and the right temperature to germinate. Mm-hmm. And once it has those things, it will put down its radicle as a first root, and the cotyledons will pop open. And if the seed's buried too deep, it will pop up a little hypercotyl up to the soil surface and then flop cotyledons out. So the short answer to that question is it has enough energy in the seed to get those cotyledons to the surface.
That's so smart.
If it doesn't, the seed will die. Oh. So there's a risk in seed banks then, because if seeds are too deep in the seed bank, there's a risk that when they do receive the right moisture and temperature cues, that they don't reach the surface. And interestingly enough, there's a really cool relationship between seed size and how deep they can emerge from. So bigger seeds can emerge from deeper because they have more energy.
Of course.
And small seeds are restricted to their top stuff, top surface.